Hello everyone, this is Manjula Devi P, Assistant Professor at GFGC Kanakpura. In this session, we are talking about strategic management of BBA 6th semester of Bangalore University. In that, Unit 3, Strategic Planning. In this unit, in today's session, we will discuss about levels of strategy. And in that levels of strategy, we will concentrate on what is corporate level strategy and what are the different corporate level strategies that are generally followed. So, as you all know, strategy, it's a game plan. Every organization need to have their own strategic vision, strategic planning about how the firm has to go about. They should have their own vision, mission, objectives to accomplish. It has to be clearly defined in a time frame. So all those things we have already discussed in the previous sessions. So today when we talk about the levels of strategy, as you all know, organization has different hierarchical levels. Like we have top management, we have middle management, we have first level management, and we have lot many operational levels, isn't it? So in that case, at which level the strategy is generally getting formulated is important. Not necessarily all the strategies that the firm follows are from the top management. Okay, so there are some strategies which are of course from the top management. There may be some strategies which are done at the business level, maybe at the unit level, maybe some are done at the functional level. Okay, so in this session we will see what are the different levels, and in that we will discuss about the corporate level. So to see this, the strategies are formulated at different hierarchies of the organization. They are also called levels of strategy. So levels of strategy generally consists of 3 levels. 3 levels are corporate level, business level, and functional level. What is corporate level? Corporate constitute the entire organization. Suppose when I talk about Tata's has so many business under that, but Tata one Tata group, isn't it? Same way Reliance, of course they are also a conglomerate. Of course under Reliance there are so many businesses, but when I talk about strategy of Reliance, it's like one corporate strategy. So in this session we will talk about the corporate strategy, which is of course corporate at the top of the pyramid. So this has so many businesses within which, and of course under each business they have each functional levels. So here in the corporate level strategy, this is done from the top management. It's a game plan for administering and directing the entire concern. These are based on company's business environment and internal capabilities. Like these strategies, whatever followed or formulated at the corporate level, this is of course done by the top management, and it is applicable for the entire organization. Means the effect of it, the implication of this strategy spreads throughout the corporate. It includes all the businesses, all the functional areas in each business setup. So this is basically for the entire organization. So that's why it is also called as grand strategy, when it is formulated, applicable for the entire organization. And before they make this strategies, so they have to do the thorough analysis of the environment, all the like all internal, external environment, political, social, cultural, technological, all those environment analysis, and then thorough analysis of their internal environment and their capabilities. After doing that, they can formulate these strategies, the corporate strategies at the corporate level. Then what are the general strategies which are, or out of the strategies which are called as the grand strategies or applicable for the entire organization? Okay, before going to that, let's see the characteristics. First and foremost, as I have already told, it is a top-down approach, or it is actually formulated at the higher level, at the highest level of the management of the organization. Then this consists of, by keeping in mind, by considering the overall growth of the organization, and by having a thorough analysis of the opportunities and threats present in the external environment, and what are the strengths and weakness of the internal environment as well. Then basically this strategy, corporate strategies, describes the direction or the orientation where the company is actually going to be, because it is applicable for the entire organization, and of course it has a a direct bearing on the long run of the organization, and it defines the overall boundaries which acts as the basis for formulating the company and low level, that is functional level strategies. So this just gives a framework for the entire organization, so that within which at the business level or at the functional level, the other middle level and functional level managers can formulate their own strategies. Then while formulating corporate level strategies, companies' available resources and environment factors have to be kept in mind. So as I mentioned earlier also, while formulating these, the entire environment analysis has to be done thoroughly. Entire, we call it as PESTLE, that is political, economical, social, technological, legal. So entire PESTLE analysis, and of course the analysis of the internal capabilities. So what is the core competency, what is the strength of the organization, what is the weakness if there is any, all that has to be thoroughly analyzed before they come up with these corporate level strategies. It is concerned with the decision regarding the two-way flow of companies' information and resources. So mainly it is concerned, whichever the corporate strategy they follow, it is about the two-way flow, as the organization has this exchange of resources from the external environment to the organization, as way from the organization to the external environment. What are the resources and information that has to be exchanged within the environment, and the organization has to be considered. Now after seeing all these characteristics, let's see what are the different corporate level strategies which are generally followed or taken. Anyway, all these strategies, that is stability, expansion, retrenchment, combination, I think all of this is as already been discussed individually in the previous sessions. Now let's see once again, just recall what are these strategies mean one after the other. So what is a stability strategy? Stability strategy is basically one of the corporate level or grand strategy followed, where the company or the organization focus on its existing product and the existing market, on the whatever the efficiency that they have right now, they'll focus on that and they'll try to maintain the same position. They're not thinking of expansion, they're not thinking of growth, they're not thinking of retrenchment or downsizing. They just want to maintain the status quo, that they'll maintain the same thing. So that is called a stability strategy. Of course, at the corporate level, if these companies, if the company decides to have a stability strategy, then mainly all the business units under that corporation will focus only on those products and services which they already have, and the markets which they are already serving with, and the market share which they already have in the market. They'll try to maintain that, and even the profit percentage, even the margins, they would like to maintain the same as it is before. So this is the stability strategy. Before itself, I have told when we discussed this in detail, that mainly this is done if the industry in which the corporate is already hit the maturity, there is no scope for growth, or the times of economic downturns or during recession, where you don't want to take any risk, you just want to maintain the status quo, offer the same products, give the same services, and maintain your market share in the market, so that you're not in reinvesting your money in expansion, or you're not thinking of merging with someone or acquiring some other firm, entering into new market and venturing with the new products and services. No, you're just maintaining the status quo. That is stability strategy. I think I gave the example of cigarette companies or alcohol, or maybe if I say even Parle-G biscuits, they are having stability strategy because they are not changing. It's just the same product and same service, same way of doing things. They are not changing anything. That is stability. Of course, it has its own advantage and limitation. Advantage is less risk, and investment need not to invest extra because they are not doing anything extra, they are just maintaining it, and they get expertise over the period of time because they are doing the same thing year after year, and less risky, and it can cope with the economic downturns. Then what is the disadvantage? Mainly, this strategy cannot hold in the long run. You cannot hold the same strategy in the long run, because in the long run every variable in the market is subject to change. Okay, the market dynamics, the situation, tastes and preferences of the consumers, all of it is going to change. If you're not making any changes in your goods, services, or you're not inventing something new, no innovation, then eventually you may have to move out of the market, because there are many new goods, services, new competitors, new way of doing things. So you may become obsolete in the long run. But of course, in the short run, as I said, during downturns, during the period where the corporate wants to accumulate its strength, where the corporate wants to keep the liquidity, maintain the cash position, and then accumulate the strength and come up with an expansion. So until that, of course, stability strategy is something that the corporate would follow. This is one of the strategy at the corporate level. Then expansion strategy. The name itself indicates expansion or growth, where you are widening the scope of your business. You are either adding new products to the product line, you are expanding your scale of operation, you are venturing into new markets, you are going to the new geographical areas, or you are getting diversified into new businesses. Okay, so these are all part of your expansion strategy. It is also called as growth strategy. The company's business is revalued so as to extend the capacity and scope of the business, and considerably increasing the overall investment in the business. So here mainly if the company wants to widen its scope, wants to venture into new market, new services, new products, new customer base, so then they would go for expansion. Of course, this expansion strategy has to be followed at the corporate level after the thorough analysis of pros and cons of each decision that they are taking, and also the company should be, the corporate should be ready to take the risk and should have the investment that is needed to go for this expansion. And of course, this expansion has long run advantages, because you are just changing your business outlook, you are changing, you are adding more value or new feathers to your cap. Okay, then that is expansion strategy. As I said, it has its own advantage as well as disadvantage. In the expansion, they may go for mergers, acquisition, they may go for diversification, they may go for internationalization. So all those things are part of expansion. Yeah, the advantage could be, of course, your reputation would increase, your scale of operation would increase, your profits would increase if everything goes well the way you have planned. Okay, so you will be innovating into new markets, new products, new services, you are spending on research and development, so you are getting better and better if you go for expansion. Same way, disadvantages or the limitation is, of course, along with the huge investment comes the huge risk. So your analysis, your calculations has to be accurate, and even the external environment should work in the same way what you had actually predicted. Suppose if there is a huge change in the external environment factors, then the decision what you have taken might go wrong with the huge risk posing on the corporate or the organization. So this is about the expansion strategy. So then we have the retrenchment strategy. So this is also called as downsizing, or sometimes it is also called as reconstruction. So what is retrenchment? This is exactly opposite of what is your expansion. So this is pursued when the company opts for decreasing its scope of activity or operations. In retrenchment, number of business activities are retrenched or cut off or reduced so as to minimize the cost as a response to the firm's financial crisis. So sometimes the business itself is dropped by selling out, or the final thing is going for liquidation. So in retrenchment, what happens? You are basically cutting down the scope of your business, or you are minimizing or you are decreasing the scope of business. Again, at the time of recession or even at the time of depression, so where the business operation, the entire economic scenario is dull, it's gloomy, or any of the business unit under your corporate umbrella, if it's not working, or if it is no more chances of this being working, or there are a whole lot of issues with regarding the resources to that. Maybe there is acute shortage of raw materials, laborers, or the technology. So any issue with regarding any of the business unit, so at the corporate level, they may go for this retrenchment strategy. So first they may go for downsizing, means they would reduce the operations by, say, cutting down the employees, by reducing the resources that they are putting for that. Or sometimes they may go for divesting. That means out of the entire corporate, that part or the division which has this problem, which can never be profitable again, or which has huge losses which cannot be set off against anything else, and the section or the division which requires huge resources when it comes to time, money, laborers, and all resources, but the outcome is not so proportionate compared to the entire corporate. Then if you divest it, or if you take it off from the organization, then whatever the resources left out can be put in a more efficient way on the other businesses under the same corporate. Then in such case also they may go for this retrenchment. So again, to give the example, in Tata's, of course Tata's is a conglomerate, so they cut their Tata Communication part. So there is no Tata Communication now. They started with it, but it didn't work the way they expected, as there was a huge communication change in the market, say around 15 years before, 15 to 20 years before. So all private sector communications have started. So then Tata's also started, but it didn't compete in the market, so they had to move out of it. So they closed it, they divested the Tata Communication. So same way, retrenchment is basically done to minimize the cost, or to save the company from the financial crisis, or to get the liquidity by selling a portion of it, so that that money can be used for other business sectors, or for repaying the debt. So in all such cases, retrenchment strategy is generally adopted by the corporate. So under this we have something called turnaround strategy, where you had taken a decision earlier, now you are reversing the decision. Or divesting, you are selling a small portion of it, or it could be the last resort, liquidation, where you are completely closing it down, you are winding it up. Okay, those are all part of the retrenchment strategies. Then we have combination strategy. Interestingly, at the corporate level, if the company combines any of this or all of these three strategies what we discussed. So, we discussed stability, we discussed expansion, we discussed retrenchment. If the corporate combines all these strategies and takes the decision, so how can it be stability, expansion and retrenchment at the same time? Of course, it's possible, because when I am saying it's at the corporate level, under the corporate level there are so many businesses could be, like I was giving example of Tata's has motors, Tata has like their steel, Tata has consultancy services, like they have different segments or sections, business units under one corporate umbrella. So now how do they mix this strategies? The area which doesn't need any change, which is fine as it is right now, they would go for stability. So they will follow stability strategy for that business unit under that corporate. Then the sector where there is scope for expansion, where they can grow, where they can add few more get into mergers or get into new products or service, get into new market, under that business they would go for expansion. Or under the same corporate, the segment where it's not operating efficiently, where there are continuous losses, or where it's not efficient as other part of the organization. So then they may go for retrenchment in that particular business unit. So at the corporate level, they are seeing each business unit. We have something called as the BCG matrix that we will see in the later sessions, where they will try to figure out in the corporate what are the different business units, where do they stand for, do they have a high growth profile and high market share, or they have low growth profile or low market share, or they have a high growth profile but right now the market share is less, or like different variants are taken, market share and the growth profile, and then they will decide on which business unit we have to give more importance, where we have to go for divestiture, where we have to do the expansion, where we have to do maintain the stability. So it is done very interestingly at the corporate level, where they combine the strategy and take the decision for the each unit under that corporate for the, again it's done at the top management level, at the corporate level, to decide how the resources have to be allocated on the different business units under the same corporate. So this is the combination strategy. Now to have a recap, so the topic what we discussed, we spoke about the levels of strategies. So the strategies are formulated at different hierarchical levels. So we have three levels basically in this: corporate level, business level and functional level. So in the corporate level, which is on the top of the hierarchy, the strategies are formulated at the top level management, and these strategies are applicable for the entire corporate, for the entire business organization. Basically it gives a broader framework within which the entire corporate has to work, and any strategies formulated at this level has its own impact on each business unit which is there under that corporate, and of course it is having a long lasting impact. So in this session we discussed particularly about the corporate level strategies. So corporate level strategies are the top management's approach or game plan for administering and directing the entire concern. These are based on company's business environment and internal capabilities, and they are also called as grand strategies. Under corporate level strategy, we discussed four strategies: stability strategy, expansion strategy, retrenchment strategy and combination. In the stability strategy, corporate would concentrate on maintaining the status quo, the present market, the current product, the present market share or the profit percentage, whatever. They will focus on the present, whatever the goods and services and the market that they are offering at. Then in the expansion, the name itself indicates they want to widen the scope of the business by entering into new market, new products, new services, by having alliances or by having strategic partnership with others. They want to have business combinations. So these are all during expansion. Then when it comes to retrenchment, just opposite of expansion, they want to cut down or minimize or limit the scope of the business organization by downsizing it, by cutting off the sections or units which are not profitable. Okay, they may go for divestment or they may go for turnaround strategy. So those are part of retrenchment. Then we have combination strategy, where they may combine all these three: stability, expansion and retrenchment, and make a strategy where under the same corporate, as we have so many business units, so which business unit to maintain stability, which unit has to be given expansion, and which unit we are supposed to follow retrenchment. They'll have the analysis and then they'll make a strategy, then that is called as the combination strategy. So in the next session, we'll discuss about the next level, that is the business level strategies. These are the references which I have used for preparing the notes, and for you can also use it for further reference. Thank you very much.